There's a direct connection between pushing through that final rep and showing up when your kid's been up all night. Welcome back to the Hybrid Athlete Dad Podcast. Super excited to have you today, and thanks for tuning into today's episode. Now, in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how fitness builds mental toughness for fatherhood. Now, before I dive into today's episode, I like to go over anything in my life: fitness, nutrition, anything that you may find interesting. With all of that said, let's dive into today's episode. I will say running in the winter is tough. When it's cold, it's dark, there's not a lot of people out. I don't really see anyone else out walking or biking or even running for that matter. It might be freezing temps, so under 32. It might be 10 degrees, might be 20, might be in the negative temperatures. Did a couple of those runs last year. Those were hard. I find that running in the heat is it's just different. I find that when I'm going through my runs, as I start to get towards the end, I feel more taxed than I did running in the winter. And I ran through snow and I ran through slush and very strong winds, but there's just something about running in the heat. Now, according to my Garmin watch, I'm 100% used to the heat by now. But even then, it's still hot out. Went for a run, 6 mile run this morning. It was 85 degrees with about 80% humidity. And it's been a grind to get through the heat. I found the same last year. I have a water bottle with me, hat, sunglasses, the whole 9 yards, but still just dealing with the heat. And I know at least where I am in New York, we'll be dealing with this for about another month or two, or definitely at least a month, probably into through August, and then maybe even a little bit into September. So if you're out there, you're running through the summer heat, just know that we're all in it together. It's definitely can be hot, can be a little bit more taxing, I find personally, than any other time of the year, but doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. Just because it's hard, I'm going to push through it. And I'm going to come out a better runner on the other end of it. With that said, going on vacation this week, going to Maine with the family. Looking forward to that. The way that I structured my runs and my lifts, more so my runs, it's a little bit trickier to find lifts when I'm in Maine, just based on where I'm going. There's not a lot of gyms around. So I'm doing more sit-ups, push-ups, chair dips, just simple little things like that. Bands that I can do in the hotel room. And when it came to running, there's a nice little 1.5 mile loop. So what I did is I structured my running this week. So Monday, I ran 5 miles. Tuesday, I ran 8. Wednesday, I'm going to be running 7. And then Thursday, I'll get up when we're going to be leaving on Thursday. So that's 20 miles. And I want to get to 30 for the week. I'll probably run 2 or 3 miles on Thursday. That way I'm at 23. And that way I don't have to do as long of a run I'll probably run a little bit Friday, run a little bit Saturday. But again, that way I'm not running as much while I'm on vacation, because at the end of the day, I still want to be able to enjoy my vacation. I don't want to do so much running that my days are shot and I'm not going to be enjoying it. So anytime that I have something going on at the end of the week, I really like to front load my running at the beginning of the week. It just makes it easier, even if I'm working and I have a busy week coming up or whatnot, and I want to make sure I have the time. I always try to front load my week. Sometimes I might be doing my long runs a little bit earlier in the week than I'd like to, but I find that if I'm very busy, I have a lot going on, and I leave my 10-mile long run to Friday, I just get more stressed as the week goes on. So I find that just sometimes, and not all the time, but sometimes doing that long run a little early in the week is just more beneficial for me. Now, speaking of doing long runs and weightlifting and everything about fitness, I want to dive into today's episode, which again is how fitness builds mental toughness for fatherhood. I would say that being a father, it isn't just physically demanding, but mentally even more so. There's times where our daughter, knock on wood, she hasn't been going through this, but there's times where she doesn't sleep great. So you're getting few hours of sleep. There's the constant attention. There's not as much time for yourself, which are all perfectly fine and good things, but it's just different from when you don't have a kid, and you don't really understand it until you go out there and you do have a kid. Fitness isn't just about the body, it's about training your mind to be resilient, to be patient, and present. There's times where, yeah, I go to the gym and I just speed through my workout, and I'm like, did I even focus on the rep and on the set at hand? And same thing when I'm hanging out with my daughter. Am I focusing on her, or am I thinking about something that I have to do at work the next week? So I find that it all relates back to one another. And honestly, the gym has given me more strength, has given me more than strength, obviously. It's given me strength, but it's given me discipline, it's given me grit, and just perspective as a dad. When I'm at the gym, I don't want to be on my phone in between sets. I want to be focusing like, okay, what did I do this set? What am I going to be doing next set? The same thing when my daughter's home. I don't want to be playing on my phone or just scrolling aimlessly. I want to make sure that I'm spending time with her. And sometimes it's easy. I'm at the gym where I have an idea. Next thing I know, I'm on Instagram and I'm like, why am I scrolling? Same thing when my daughter's home. It's like, why am I doing this? That's not how I want to be spending my time. So it reminds me of, okay, like this is a discipline. And again, it just gives me that perspective as a dad. I would say that the discipline that you have when it goes to going into the gym, it carries over into the rest of your life. So what you build in the gym, and what I mean by that is you show up when you don't feel like it, directly supports the unpredictability of fatherhood. Sometimes it's you just don't have the energy to show up, but I know I'm going to be getting up the next morning. I'm going to be getting my shoes on. I'm going to be going for my run. Like today, I'm doing an 8 mile run, but I knew I had a lot of work to do, so I was only going to do a 6 mile run, but I made sure that I did 2 miles when I was at the gym. And then when I got home, I was like, I really just do not feel like it. We're running today. It's 85 degrees. It's sunny. I know how I'm going to be feeling after this run, but I know that I have to do it anyway. Again, it just directly supports the unpredictability of fatherhood, because sometimes we drop our daughter off at daycare and 30 minutes later they're calling us up and saying she needs to get picked up. She might have a fever. She can't come back the next day. Sometimes it's valid. Sometimes I'm not sure. It might be on the border, but we will do what they say. So we go in and we pick her up. And now all of a sudden our daughter's home. I had this run plan. I had this work plan. And now I I have to rearrange the schedule to make sure that I'm taking care of her, but I also have these other responsibilities. So it just goes hand in hand at the end of the day. Morning workouts. That is proof that you can follow through no matter the chaos. I know that if I get my morning workout done before my daughter wakes up, so if I get home a little bit before 7, I know typically our daughter doesn't wake up until 7, that I can handle whatever the day throws at me. If I'm going to the gym and I'm benching, squatting, deadlifting, any heavy lift, I know that I'll be able to handle anything that I have to handle at home, because I started the day off with a win. And if you just get up and you're just thrown right into the chaos of being a parent, and all of a sudden your fitness starts to dip, you're not going to the gym as much, you're not going to the run, I really feel like it's going to be carrying over into the rest of your life. Sometimes I just, again, I don't feel like showing up at the gym, but I am exhausted, but I show up anyway, and I show up consistently. And that's what I want to be sharing with my daughters. I want to show up for her, even when, as an example, today, say I lifted this morning, I ran 8 miles today, I worked a full day, a lot going on. And then she comes home, I'm showing up for her, I'm giving her my best self, even though like mentally I might be absolutely exhausted, but I don't want to just sit there and hang around. Like I want to be able to play with her, I want to be able to have fun with her, and I'm showing up. And same thing at the gym. Sometimes I'm just tired, but I get myself out of bed, I get in the car, I go to the gym, or I get my running shoes on and I push myself and I go outside. Fitness allows you to handle discomfort. Going to the gym teaches you to lean into discomfort. Sometimes there's reps that hurt. Today I was doing barbell curls. I get to like the seventh, eighth rep, and I'm trying to get to 10. Like my biceps are absolutely on fire, but I know like I want to push through, but I also want to have good form. So I have to really focus. I have to really push myself through to ensure that I get the ninth and 10th rep. But I don't want to be taking the barbell and like leaning my back all the way back just to get that rep. I want a nice have, standing straight up, still have strict form, not be like just jerking the bar back. And then same thing with running. I was feeling good for the first 3 miles of the run, and then I hit hills, and it sucked. It was the sun was just beating on my body. I felt like I was overheating. I know like I'm gonna push through it. Like I am not gonna stop, and I am not gonna walk. And there's just discomfort that you may encounter as a parent, but and I'll get to that in a second. But by going to the gym, by pushing through, I don't feel like squatting. I don't feel like deadlifting every single week. Some weeks I'm, perfectly fine. But I know, like, okay, if I squat today, I know how my legs are going to be feeling the next 2 days. If I deadlift today, I know how I'm going to be feeling after I do that, and it's not going to be feeling good. I'm going to be sore, but I know that I'm pushing myself, and I know that by doing and pushing myself through discomfort, I'm becoming a better person because of it. And fatherhood has emotional discomfort. There's tantrums. There's sleep deprivations, which I've talked about. There's identity shifts. All of a sudden, she starts shifting what she likes, what she doesn't like. Even tantrums. My wife and I were reading to our daughter last night, and it was getting a little bit late. It had been about 30 minutes or so we give her a bath every night, and then we unwind her by reading books. We like to get her down about 8 p.m. So we get her read all the books. It's 8:05, and she wants to read Goodnight Moon. And we read all of these books, and we said, okay, it's time for bed. We read all of your books. We read one specific book before we place her down to bed. And she was just throwing a temper tantrum, and it's how do we react to it? Yelling at her is not going to solve anything. She's 2 years old. I don't want to send her to bed crying, but how do I handle this situation? So, and I don't know how to handle it until you encounter it, because I haven't had this situation before where she's been throwing a tantrum. She started doing it more as she's gotten older, but it's like, okay, how can I be stoic? How can I handle this situation where, again, I don't want to yell at her to say stop or to make her uncomfortable, but this is a discomfort that we're having. This is a discomfort that she's having, but at the same time, I don't want to give in to everything that she wants and just become a yes, almost like a yes man for her, where sometimes she does things that we would prefer her not to do. As another example, she'll take the toilet paper roll and try to pull off just take the first piece and then just drag it out the bathroom, and next thing you know, there's no toilet paper, but it's all strewn throughout the house. So we want to tell her no, but then she laughs and try to figure out like what's the best way that we can handle it. And I wish I had a better answer to share with you, but it's not the easiest. But I know that what I can take from the gym and the discomfort that I take from lifting and running, I can apply it to being a father. And I know I've touched on it. I know I've touched on it briefly, but it's that the fitness conditions myself, I find, to not panic in tough moments like I mentioned before. It's a long day, we're stressed, I'm exhausted, especially on Mondays. When this happened, I've been up since 4:15. I'm tired. I've gone through the whole gamut. I had a 45-minute interview. There's just a lot going on, but how can I be stoic? And I find that in the gym. Sometimes I go in the gym and I can't do the same amount of reps or weight that I did the previous week. And yeah, I can get frustrated and I can lower my self-esteem and self-confidence, but that's not what I want to do. It's just making sure to not panic when that happens. And that might be an exaggeration to a certain degree. I'm not gonna have a panic attack because I lifted 7 reps this week and then 6 reps, or 7 reps this week, 8 reps last week. But I find that going to the gym conditions myself to not panic. In fitness, you know that rest days matter. For me, I couldn't work out 7 days a week. I couldn't run 7 days a week. I just need 2 days off from lifting a week and at least one day off from running. And in fatherhood, it's the same. Sometimes I just need a nice night out with my wife. We just need to go have a dinner by ourselves. Our daughter's getting to that age where we take her out for dinner and she doesn't want to sit there. She just wants to move around. She wants to run around the restaurant, which is totally understandable. She's 2 years old, but it makes it more difficult on my wife and I. Either my wife is eating and I'm handling our daughter, or I'm eating and my wife's handling our daughter. So just knowing that sometimes it's nice just to go out and have a meal on her own. Maybe she's being watched by a sitter, maybe she's being watched by her grandparents. But just knowing that just even going out for an hour or two, getting that mental break, coming back, it just makes it all the better. And I would say the same exact thing for going in the gym. And mental toughness doesn't mean to go all the time. Like push myself as hard as I can every day, run as far as I can every day. It means knowing sometimes I just need to rest and recharge. From going to the gym and doing running, I find that it has allowed me to be more present and focused on on the task at hand. When I'm working out, when I'm running, I'm focusing on my form, I'm focusing on my breathing, I'm focusing maybe on my pacing if I am running. But definitely my form in the gym, my pacing when I'm running, especially this time of year when I'm running. If it's super hot out there, I know if I do that first mile and I go very fast, the rest of the run is just not going to be enjoyable. Just that's how that's what I noticed because I did it because it was super hot out. It was like 95 degrees. I did the first mile like in 8 minutes, which is I've done it before. It's a little bit fast for me. The rest of the run was just me hanging on for dear life for the next 4 miles. Now, when it comes to focusing on form and breathing and pacing, it's about carrying that same attention into fatherhood. It's listening to our daughter. It's being there mentally, not just physically. And that's what I mean when I was talking about before, where when she's home, I want to be fully present with her. I don't want to be focusing on what I have to do for work. What do I got to do the next day? I want to be in the moment, right there with her. Now, sometimes you might be running a race and you enter a tough period. I talked about this a little bit on the previous podcast. I was doing this half marathon at the end of the June. The day prior, I'd been laid off from my job, so there's a lot going on with that. I ended up having to drive 3 hours after that to my parents' house to stay there for the weekend, but mainly for for that specific night because they're about 35 minutes away from where I was going to be racing. Also that day, got in an EKG, came up a little bit abnormal, got some blood work. That came back fine, but the doctor wanted to run more tests, stress test, echocardiogram. But now I'm thinking I have to run this half marathon. There might be something wrong with my heart. I just lost my job, trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to be doing with that? And I got about 5 to 6 miles into the race, and it was almost like I had tunnel vision. It was almost like having a panic attack where I was stressed. What am I going to do for work? What am I going to do like if something's wrong with my heart? And I'm pushing it. I haven't ran 13 miles since November. I run many 10-mile runs, one 12-mile run since there, but no other races. Like what happens, I have a 2-year-old daughter, I have my wife, I have I don't know, a job, and it was just being like 5.5, 6 miles into this race and just having this panic attack come on. And it was just like a minute or two of just having this tunnel vision of everything. I felt like I was just going to pass out there, and but push through it. I finished the race, did fine for the race, and I found that sometimes there's just these tough stretches as a dad where you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Especially there was a time where our daughter, it was like I mean, outside of her being born and you have to get up every few hours, that's to be expected. But now she's been sleeping through the night, no issues. And we're looking out about, I think this was about 6 or probably about 7 or 8 months after she was born. She just wouldn't sleep through the night. She would just sleep 3 or 4 hours at a clip, and it was just a tough stretch, and you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I know, like, we just push through it. Eventually, we're going to be coming out the other side, and it's all going to work out in the end. And that's exactly how I felt with that race. Like, I didn't stop. I pushed myself through, and I completed the race. Now, not to diverge too much, but I was listening to a podcast by Jason Kalippa. Hope I pronounced his name correctly. And it was one of his latest podcast episodes, and something that I thought was interesting. And I hadn't heard of this gentleman before, but his name was David Roach. And I believe he's an ultramarathoner. I don't know too much about him, other than what I had heard on the podcast. He had ran and won the Leadville 100, and I believe he's the course record holder, so obviously very well established. So if you don't know what Leadville 100 is, it's a 100-mile race out in Colorado. It sounds like there's a lot of elevation change. So a very difficult course. So his premise, from what I heard again from Jason's podcast, was that his training philosophy, David's, is most people that do ultra marathons, is you go out and you run 100 miles a week at a slow pace just to get time on your feet. David is focused more on speed work, so that's why people are gravitating towards him. And then obviously he ran Leadville 100 and broke the course record. Pretty awesome. So David got a bunch of sponsorships, as to be expected, and he was running Western States. So if you don't know Western States, it's a 100-mile race out in California. I believe it starts in Lake Tahoe. I don't know exactly where it ends, but again, high elevation change. It's pretty crazy how fast these guys run this race. I think the winner, I don't know the time this year, but I believe the previous year he ran like 830 miles, which is nuts, over 14, 15 hours running up and down the mountains. Where I'm getting to the point in the story is that David was about 60 miles into this 100-mile race, and it makes me think of myself where he was having this panic attack where he thought he was going to be having rhabdo, in which it could be a serious symptom of people that overexert yourself. I believe it's, I wouldn't say common, but not uncommon in the world of like folks that are doing Ironmans, where it's just, I believe it's you push your body so hard that protein ends up getting leaked into your bloodstream. Hopefully I'm quoting it correct, but long story short, I believe it can cause kidney failure and your kidneys will shut down, which is obviously not what you want. And I believe David has 2 young kids, and he was just having a panic attack and ended up DNFing. And I think we don't talk enough about the mental aspect of running and being a parent. And I think about that too. And I don't want to get too far off topic, but when I'm out there running, sometimes there's cars that come a little closer than I would like to me. And I think, like, what happens if something did happen to me while I'm out here? And I don't want to dwell on it, but I have a 2-year-old daughter. I have a wife. I'm relatively young. I want to make sure that I'm here for a long time so I could see where it comes from. I even experienced that panic attack. And obviously running a half marathon is way different than running a 100-mile endurance race up in the mountains. But I just put it into perspective that even those of us who are very successful and well respected and would be elite at their sport, like, we can all experience the mental aspects of whether it's running, whether it's lifting, of being a parent. So just wanted to share that story with you. Now, diving back into the show, some actionable advice that I want to give you, especially for those dads out there, to build mental toughness through fitness, is pick a consistent training time and stick with it. For me, that's getting up either 4:15, 4:50 every single day, Monday through Friday. I give myself the ability to sleep a little bit later and on the weekends, but it's being very consistent with how often I'm training and knowing that sometimes I just need a short session. That was today where I was trying to log 2 extra miles in, so I ended up cutting off a couple of different sets that I would be doing today, but I made sure that I still got in the majority of what I wanted to do today. So sometimes I might just be making a sacrifice here and there, but knowing that just because I'm doing a little bit less today doesn't mean I'm not getting a good workout in. And just remind yourself that training isn't separate from parenting, but rather it supports it. Now, I want to share some final takeaways with you before we end today's episode. But and I know I just alluded to it, but you don't need to be perfect. Just consistent. No parent's perfect. I'm not perfect at the gym. I'm not perfect on every run, but it's just being consistent. It's consistently showing up. It's consistently being there for our daughter, for my wife, and just knowing that by being consistent, it's just going to all work out in the long run. Fitness isn't selfish. It's a form of preparation and presence. Sometimes when I'm going out for a run and my daughter is home, I feel as though I'm being selfish of my time, of my wife's time, or not my time, of my daughter's time, of my wife's time, but knowing that I want to show up and be the best possible person that I can be for my daughter. So this is a sacrifice that I'm going to make. And even when I was training for a marathon, I would get up Saturday mornings, 4:15, go out and do my long run. So that might be 16 miles, 18 miles, 20 miles, and maybe she is up at 7:30 or she gets up at 6:30 and I'm home at 7:30. I still made enough of a sacrifice in my mind to still be there and to show up for her. And I want to leave you off with a little saying or quote, however you want to take it. But the stronger your mind, the more fully you can show up for your family. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode on the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. And I hope you tune into next week's episode where I discuss teaching your kids grit through fitness.